Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Election 2013 in the Inland Empire. This is Jeff Horseman with the PressEnterpriseMP.com, and this is kind of the post-election, morning after, day after show, however we want to call it, and we have a few things for you today. We're going to be going over the final unofficial results in Riverside and San Bernardino counties, and we're going to have Cassie McDuff back to talk a little more about the interesting results that came out of the city of San Bernardino with their various elections. And then we're going to have a couple candidates on talking about their victories and their plans for now that they're on their way to office. So first we're going to start with, these are the final unofficial results for the San Bernardino County Board of Registrars. And the city of San Bernardino, I think, had a total of 7 races between the regular and the recall ones. And in Ward 1, Virginia Marquez, the incumbent, will win another term. She defeated 2 challengers and also gained the majority of the vote in that ward, so she will avoid a runoff and has been reelected. Moving on, Robert Jenkins, the incumbent in Ward 2, has been defeated by challenger Benito Barrios. Mr. Jenkins, you may recall, faces charges of identity theft and stalking in Riverside County. One would have to think that played a role in his defeat, and so we'll have a new councilman there. Moving on to Ward 4, it appears Fred Charette is on his way to a runoff. While the incumbent got a majority of the vote in that district, he did not get 50% plus 1, and so he is set to be in a runoff with Anthony Jones. And a real big development from last night was the recall effort against San Bernardino City Attorney Jim Penman succeeded. So he appears he is out, and this, if you follow San Bernardino politics, this is a big deal. He certainly was outspoken and had a lot of supporters and a lot of critics for the way he conducted business for the city. And so succeeding him will be Attorney Gary Sines, who I guess has promised a more kind of policy-based approach than Mr. Penman. So moving on, there was another recall effort against Ward 3 Councilmember John Valdivia that failed by a roughly 2-to-1 margin, and so John Valdivia will be staying in office. And Roxanne Williams, while she, won she was the only candidate actually to, if the Valdivia recall succeeded, she was in line to replace him. Again, that's not going to happen because John Valdivia, the recall effort failed for him. All right, now this gets really interesting because on the one hand, we have a successful recall in Ward 7 against Councilwoman Wendy McCamick, but she also was running for mayor, and she is one of the top vote getters in that race and is set to be in a runoff with Carrie Davis. So it's very interesting. On one hand, the voters rejected her, on the other hand, they favored her, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of that. And then succeeding Wendy McCamick in Ward 7 is going to be Jim Mulvihill. He came out on top of a field of 5 candidates to replace Wendy McCamick if she was to be recalled. And again, in the mayor's race, you have Wendy McCamick with 2,750 votes, Carrie Davis with 2,614, so that sets the stage for a runoff between those 2 candidates. All right, moving on to Riverside County for the Ward 3 City Council race, we have Mike Subaru being the winner in that against Valerie Hill. This was a seat held by Rusty Bailey before he became mayor. Mike Subaru, retired police officer of the California Highway Patrol, actually went against a fellow retired law enforcement person in Valerie Hill who used to serve as the undersheriff for Riverside County. So Mike Subaru is the choice in Ward 3. In the Moreno Valley Unified School District, you have Gary Baugh coming out on top of a field of 3 candidates, and this is a place to fill the term of Mike Rios, who had to give up his seat after being convicted of felonies. Moving on. All right, and the Banning Unified School District, I believe this was for two seats, if I recall. You have Martha Baderio winning one of those, Jan Span winning the other. And then you had two elections for the Riverside Unified School District. Incumbent Kathy Alavey won her seat, but in Trustee Area 5, longtime incumbent Chuck Beatty lost his re-election bid to newcomer Brent Lee, and this was a race that kind of pitted experience in terms of Beatty being a former city councilman and a longtime presence on that board against Brent Lee, who said there needed to be kind of more of a new approach to that board. Norco City Council, we have incumbent Kevin Bash winning re-election, and he'll be joined by Greg Newton, who is taking another unfilled seat after the incumbent there chose not to run again. City of Canyon Lake, this was Measure D. This was a measure to pass a tax, a per parcel tax, to fund the city's Lone Fire Station. And not only did a majority of people vote no, but even if it voted yes, it needed a 2/3 majority to pass, and that didn't happen. And so city officials have said they would have to close the fire station if this measure did not pass. There's another measure on the Canyon Lake ballot. This was an advisory measure regarding a proposal to develop this area called Getz Hill outside the city, and that went down resoundingly. Menifee Union School District, looks like Reg Bennett is going to be the winner there. Paris School District, you have Jose Pedro Garcia on top. I believe this is for 3 seats, followed by Natalie Vasquez, and one vote behind, Monica Martin. So who knows? Maybe there might be, I'm just speculating here, but you could see the possibility for a recount in that or absentee ballots making a district. We'll certainly continue to watch the race in that district. And that's it. So we're going to turn back now to San Bernardino, the city of San Bernardino, where there are, like I said, a lot of elections, a lot of confusing results, and here to kind of help us sort through it all is columnist Cassie McDuff. So, Cassie, welcome back. And let's start off by talking about the city attorney race. Jim Penman recalled. Let's talk about that.
Well, this is a sea change for San Bernardino. Penman he's the longest serving elected public official in San Bernardino. He's been city attorney for almost 27 years now, and he really set the tone for the council meetings and for the public conversation in San Bernardino. So his recall is an earthquake in San Bernardino. The fact that Gary Sines, an unknown in San Bernardino politics, came out on top says he ran a strong race, got his name out there, and became known. He had a lot of support from established people in San Bernardino. And so it's interesting. I asked the city clerk, okay, so what happens now? When does the new person take office? And the answer is as soon as the official count is certified, which is in about a month.
Okay, well, so that's certainly a momentous result. And but what about Wendy McCamick? On the one hand, she loses, and on the other hand, she is she could potentially become mayor. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, she was recalled in her ward, so that's a small universe of voters among the 7 ward seats. She's been in office for 4 terms, so she won re-election. She was elected 4 times. I think the bankruptcy was the big determining factor in this election. I think that's why Penman was recalled. I think that's why McCamick was recalled. The fact that McCamick won the most votes in the mayoral race doesn't surprise me. She had the best name recognition on the ballot, other than the 2 other sitting council members, one of whom resigned from public office after pleading guilty to a felony, so he was ineligible, and the voters knew that. They gave him very few votes. And the other council member, Ricky Van Johnson, didn't do that well. However, what's remarkable in this race is not just that McCamick came out on top, but that a newcomer, Carrie Davis, came in so close behind her, 1 percentage point, 100 votes. And that they'll be in a runoff. I think Davis will probably pick up a lot of votes that went to those other 8 candidates. So that could be a very interesting race.
Okay. Do we know anything about Mr. Davis in terms of his background or what he said about why he wants to win for mayor or the approach he wants to bring to City Hall?
I can't tell you what approach he wants to bring to City Hall. He is a CPA. He's an accountant, and so he has a financial background. The mayor and his wife got to know Davis because Davis was volunteering to clean up a park that the mayor and his wife and their family have adopted because the city can't afford to clean up the parks. And so Davis was working right alongside them, and they got to know him and think well of him.
All right. Well, it was an interesting night as we expected. Maybe not quite like this in San Bernardino, but it's not over yet. And, Cassie, I want to thank you again for sharing your insight. And I know you're going to be writing about this later on, so we look forward to that.
My pleasure.
So thank you very much. And in a minute, we're going to have the winning candidate in the Moreno Valley School Board race. In the meantime, we have some videos from last night's footage that we want to show you. So here they are.
Well, I think it's crucial because our city is in bankruptcy, as you mentioned. But in addition to that, it's not just the financial bankruptcy that we're suffering from. We're also suffering from organizational dysfunction. And that organizational dysfunction requires, I believe, somebody that's had success and an organization that's been successful. So the current incumbents that are running, they've come from a background, and at least in our city council, that's coming from a broken system. In order to be able to fix that, I think you need to have some experience in a successful organization. So that's the experience that I bring to the table, is having worked with many organizations, both as a CPA and currently as a controller for a manufacturing company. I've had the opportunity to be in successful companies and see how they operate and how they should operate as a policy-making body. Well, I think it's crucial because our city is in bankruptcy, as you mentioned. But in addition to that, it's not just the financial bankruptcy that we're suffering from. We're also suffering from organizational dysfunction. And that organizational dysfunction requires, I believe, somebody that's had success and an organization that's been successful. 1, 2, 3. So the current incumbents that are running, they've come from a background, and at least in our city council, that's coming from a broken system. In order to be able to fix that, I think you need to have some experience in a successful organization. So that's the experience that I bring to the table, is having worked with many organizations, both as a CPA and currently as a controller for a manufacturing company. I've had the opportunity to be in successful companies and see how they operate and how they should operate as a policy-making body.
This is Richard Yatley in Norco for PE.com on election night, where candidate Greg Newton is a high second place, along with Kevin Bash, in the early results from the Norco City Council election. Mr. Newton, how do things look for you?
Well, good evening, and thank you for coming tonight. And I'll keep my eye on the camera.
That's fine.
But looking at those results, I'm going to worry till the very end, and but I believe that with those percentages, we're in real good shape right now with the absentee ballots. And here in another hour or so, we'll find out about the ballots that were cast today at the polling places.
Hi, I'm Alicia Robinson, the Riverside reporter with the Press Enterprise and PE.com, and I am at the home of Mike Subaru, who is one of 2... Hi, I'm Alicia Robinson, the Riverside reporter with the Press Enterprise and PE.com, and I am at the home of Mike Subaru, who is one of 2 candidates in a runoff election for Riverside's Ward 3 council seat. The latest results from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters show Subaru in the lead. So, Mr. Subaru, tell me a little bit about how you feel about the current results.
Well, I'm obviously very happy about it and looking for a victory by the end of the night, or possibly by tomorrow, depending on what the numbers show. But, I look at this as a victory for Riverside and the voters. They are speaking their mind and their position, and I believe that they've received the message, and I think that they want to move forward and see their city grow, and they feel that I'm the person to do that. So I'm going to do my very best to join the ranks of the other councilmen and help move Riverside forward and do what's right for our people. And everything that I told them that I would do, I will work diligently each and every day.
And so if these results do hold up, then what are the first priorities that you're going to have once you take office?
I'm going to immerse myself in learning about the city functions, from the inside, As an outsider, it's tough looking in and trying to find, exactly how some of the pieces of the puzzle fit together. So I just want to immerse myself and learn as much as I can and look into that budget and find out what we have and where we stand on everything and go from there and listen to everybody. I want to continue to listen to the voters, and I want to continue to listen to the people that work for City Hall and get their input. But ultimately, I work for the voters, and I will uphold what I said, and I will work for them and not City Hall.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so that was some of our coverage on PE.com last night. We had reporters out in the field shooting videos. And now I am joined by Gary Baugh, who is the newest board member for the Moreno Valley Unified School District. So we want to thank you, sir, for coming on. And you came in on, first of all, congratulations. You came in on top with just under 3,000 votes over Janet McMillan and Jennifer Baca. And I guess I want to ask you, what made you interested in running for this office?
Well, I have served on the school board before in 1998 to 2002, and I was so troubled with Mike Rios's failings as a board member, and so I felt like that the district needed to once again be restored to have some integrity and respect. So I just simply volunteered to be interviewed and was chosen by the school board after they interviewed 21 other people. And then one of the local groups wanted an election rather than an appointment, and I was not going to be bullied into not running. Right. So I ran, and fortunately ran against two good people and was able to win the election with the help of the teachers and the school employees. They contributed a lot of money and time and effort to my campaign, and I was grateful for that.
Okay. You mentioned their support, but are there other factors you think helped you win this particular race?
Well, I worked very hard to win the race, and I think the fact that I've lived in the community for 26 years, I used to work for the city, so I know a lot of people. I'm in one of the best service clubs in town, which is the Optimist Club, and our strength is that we help out youth. And we do everything from buying Letterman jackets for kids who can't afford it, and if they'll keep their grades up and things like that. Okay. I also wanted to run to help increase the academic scores of the students in Moreno Valley. And I think with working with the other 4 board members, we can accomplish that using the new funding guidelines that have come down from the state.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, I mean, now that you've been elected, what are maybe some of your top priorities or things you want to accomplish for the district?
Well, at the top would be to increase the academic performance index scores at each of the schools. We are going to receive new funding with the local area funding, and we might look at adding even some vocational programs that we don't currently have. We're also going to be, as Riverside, dividing into districts, and that'll be a big issue as we are no longer elected citywide but by district. Those are some of the decisions that have to go on, and plus our high schools are all far over capacity. We're going to have to build a new high school. So there's a lot on the plate of the school board and the superintendent.
All right. Well, once again, congratulations and good luck with all that, and thanks for stopping by to talk about your victory.
Thank you, Jeff. I enjoy it, and I hope I will serve well.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we're going to have reporter Alicia Robinson come on to talk about, or talk with Mike Subaru, who is the winner in the Ward 3 Riverside City Council race. But again, first we're going to have some more coverage from last night, some of the videos that our reporters shot in the field. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alicia Robinson, the Riverside reporter for the Press Enterprise and PE.com, and I am at an election night celebration for Valerie Hill, one of 2 candidates in a runoff for Riverside's Ward 3 council seat. So, Valerie, I understand that your opponent, Mike Subaru, had a pretty good lead coming off the June primary. So why do you think you started out behind, and what did you do to close the gap?
Well, I think Mike had a lot of name recognition, and he had spent a lot of time out there getting his message out from them, I backed off a little bit from all my activities I'm involved in the city. And I decided that I needed to really dedicate myself to getting my message out. So I made sure that my message got out. I'm trying to run on my education, my experience, my community involvement, and my vision, and I tried to get that message out a little bit more. And although my nonprofits and things I work with the city, I pulled back a little bit, they understood the reasons why. Last night I was at a Riverside Area Rate Crisis Auction meeting. This morning I was back at RCCD Foundation Finance Committee, so they know I'm going to be back. It was just I pulled away and dedicated myself to getting my message out, so hopefully that my name became more recognizable.
Okay. And we are still waiting for results from the Registrar of Voters, but we will have more updates later this evening. Hi, I am here with Mike Subaru, who won the Riverside Ward 3 City Council runoff last night. He beat opponent Valerie Hill with several hundred votes, and he's getting ready to take office. So yes. Tell me, Mike, when, as soon as you actually get sworn in, what are your goals for sort of your first 100 days? I mean, beyond obviously sitting down with city staff and kind of getting your feet wet and looking over the books and learning how things run, what are some of your goals for the first 100 days, and what are some of the things voters said they want to see you do?
Well, I want to partner with our local businesses and find out exactly, where, as I've promised them, where the red tape is that would help them increase their business and help keep businesses in Riverside, as well as bring businesses into Riverside. So what I want to do is develop some type of a rapport or start developing a plan with some of our business owners to see what direction they'd like to see Riverside go into. So that would be one item. The other would be to check the budget out. I've got some questions so that I understand it fully and know exactly, where some of the monies are being spent and how much we have for things such as road repaving and curbs and gutters and tree trimming, things like that. Those are things that I talked a lot with the voters out there at their doorstep.
Okay. And then how do you plan to reach out to not just residents of the 3rd Ward, but the residents in the rest of the city, especially considering the fact that the council has no women on it and very few minorities, so there's a whole large segment of the city that's really not reflected by the council. How do you plan to reach out to those people and also everyone else in the city?
Well, when you're a council person, you're a council person for everybody, and all the council people on board, I believe, are all married, so they've all got a wife at home, and they understand the women's needs out there. So it's all about doing what's right for the people and meeting with them and listening to them and answering their call for service. So it's just a matter of getting around the community again and immersing yourself as the council person and demonstrating to everybody realistically that you are accessible and that you are available and meeting those needs and meeting those calls.
And now you also have, you mentioned earlier being interested in looking at the city spending, where
Yes.
the priorities are they where they need to be? Along those lines, some of your supporters, including some of the people who were at your election night party, are people who have been somewhat critical of the city. People who have run against some of the sitting council members, yes. People who have filed lawsuits against the city challenging some of the city's practices, and have filed complaints with various agencies alleging certain improprieties or that things aren't being done properly. So do you share some of those views of your supporters, or are there specific things you want to look into that you feel like there have been legitimate questions raised about the city's practices?
Yes, I'm open to listening to anybody, anytime, and my house was an open house to everybody that wanted to come last night for our election event, and it ended up being a victory party, which was very, very nice, and I'm very thankful for that from the voters. But I don't push anybody away if there's some that have been critical of the city or some that think that the city is can do no wrong. I want to listen to all parties and all sides, and I invite them all. They're all Riverside residents, and I make no distinction on whether some have been somebody that some would consider being a troublesome, or some that would be raising the ire of some. I think it's all good in a way that we listen to the critical voices, and no matter how good we are as a city, we can always be better, and we should be listening to everybody all the time. So to me, it's an open playing field of listening to all and welcoming all in. So I think everybody has a legitimate role in voicing their opinion in the direction of Riverside.
And just to wrap up, is there anything that you are going to try to do to make the city more transparent and open to its citizens?
Yes, I want to do what I can to bring information out to the residents. You know, there's some items that can't be discussed that are personnel items that may come across in closed session, and you're not allowed to talk about some of those items to the public. But the items that can be, you know, open to the public, which is everything else, you know, that is the people's business, and the people's business should be made public, and the people should be very well aware of what exactly is going on with their government, how their money is being spent, and what is being done by the people that they've elected to office. So my commitment to the people of Riverside throughout the entire city, I'm a councilman for the entire city, but I'm a specialist for Ward 3. So, you know, I'm not a real strong believer in this ward-centric philosophy that some may have. I mean, you know, each council person is making decisions for the entire city of Riverside, and it affects all of us. Just like I would like to see growth downtown. It's not in my ward, but it benefits Ward 3 greatly, and it benefits the entire city. So, you know, I'm for working well and playing well with everybody, and that means, you know, all our constituent base, all our residents, no matter who they are or where they live. It's about working with all of them so that we can build a better Riverside. And bringing as much openness and transparency so that the people know what is going on and that they have their questions answered, and there should not be questions for them where, well, why are we doing this? And we never get a straight answer, or whatever the case may be. We need to work on that and be more diligent.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by, and congratulations on your win.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you very much for having me.
Tonight we're tracking a couple of school board races in the Menifee Union School District and the Paris Elementary School District. In Menifee's Trustee Area 1 race, newcomer Reg Bennett, a 44-year-old school teacher, leads longtime board member Rita Peters by a nearly 2-to-1 margin in the early returns, with Bennett accounting for over 450 votes and Peters at 233. So Peters, the incumbent, facing a long battle to come back tonight. In Paris, where 5 candidates are vying for 3 open spots on the elementary school district, incumbents Jose Pepe Garcia, the board president, and Monica Martin are among the 3 leaders right now, along with newcomer Natalie Vasquez. They are the 3 leading vote getters with about half the votes counted. Garcia at 23%, Vasquez and Martin at 21%. Norma Burke Hernandez, a financial systems administrator, is 4th in that race and lurking at 19%. And incumbent Shirley Jacques is pulling up the rear with about 16% of the vote. This is Tom Sheridan reporting for the Press Enterprise.
All right, well, that about does it for our coverage of Political Empire, or our Political Empire's coverage of election 2013 here in the Inland Empire. I want to thank, first of all the reporters and editors and staff who helped put this together, especially Mike Watanabe and Angel Ortiz for manning the controls and making sure all the videos are loaded. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes into these broadcasts, and I appreciate their efforts. Tom Bray as well, and so you know, thank you for all you did to last night and today. So looking ahead, you know, we're going to have probably the next big election is going to be next June. That's going to be the primary, and that one compared to this one's going to, you know, carries, you know, a lot of weight. We're going to have congressional races. We're going to have state assembly and Senate primaries, and I know we're going to have Riverside County Board of Supervisors. 3 of the 5 supervisors are up for re-election. So once again, we're going to do our best to give you the best coverage possible of those races before, during, and after. And I would encourage you to go on PE.com to check out our politics page, where we have all our political stories. We also have the Political Empire blog, which has a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and stuff that, you know, you might not necessarily read in the paper. But of course, read the paper, and you know, feel free to check out our Facebook page and our various Twitter feeds. You know, just because the election's done doesn't mean that you know, we're done covering politics and government and the issues that matter to you. So once again, this is Jeff Horstman for the Press Enterprise and PE.com, and thank you for watching.